it's Chantel with Wildberry Quilting, and today we are sewing week 3 of the Halloween Memories Quilt Along. Now, this is only week 3 out of 9 weeks, and you still have plenty of time to join us. You might have a little catching up to do, but it won't take you long. This quilt comes together quick. This is the quilt that we are sewing. It is absolutely beautiful. And check out the Fat Quarter Shop blog because they've got some versions of it made up with, or some mock-ups of it with different fabrics. And it does not have to be Halloween looking. It can be Christmas if you want it to be. It can be anything. It can be non-seasonal. Mine is going to be a very fall looking quilt because I am using the Folk and Lore line. I will link Fat Quarter Shop and everything down below. That is going to be in the description box, so check that out. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this and hear our spooky tale. All right, so now we have these units, and we are going to be taking our H pieces and attaching them right along the sides like this. All right, guys, so this next story comes from my dad, actually, and it happened to him around 20 years ago. At the time, all of the guys at his church used to get together for a yearly retreat, and it was just a good time. They'd go way out into the mountains up on the lake, and they would go fishing. Well, this lake is Lake George, and it's in the Adirondack Mountains, and it's up near part of the lake is in New York, upstate New York, and part of it is in Vermont, and it continues up and it's right near Canada. So this is pretty far north. And they are pretty far out in the middle of nowhere. They're on the side of the lake where there really isn't a whole lot. They're pretty far from civilization. Well, they are up there for a 4-night retreat, 4-day retreat, just fishing and boating and camping and having a good time. And there's about 11 guys, and they have about 5 John boats, and they're just going out there and spending their whole day out there having a good time on the lake. Well, the first day, everything goes great, and it starts getting late, and night begins to fall. They all turn into their tents and head off to bed. Now, around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, my dad wakes up and his tummy is rumbling. You know how that camping food can get you. And he knows he's going to have to answer the call of nature, but it's not really a call that he wants to answer beside a tree. So, not really a call of nature he wants to answer in nature. So, he makes the decision that he's going to walk up to the bathrooms that are provided by the campsite. And these are kind of those standalone bathrooms where there really isn't a whole lot there. It is at least a solid bathroom though, and not a porta potty, which is nice. Now, the problem is that the bathrooms are about a half a mile from their campsite. So he's going to have a little bit of walking to do. However, the other guys let him know that if he did need to use the bathroom, that if you cut through the woods, it was a lot shorter distance. And you could actually knock off almost half of that, and it'd only be a little over a quarter mile to get to those bathrooms. Well, at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't want to be out there any longer than what you have to be. So my dad was like, yeah, I'm going to cut through and shorten up my trip some. So that's what he decided to do. Now, they are pretty secluded out here. They're in a secluded place, and they are, the park is pretty much empty except for their group and one other small group of a couple of campers. So he clears the area where all of the tents are set up and where the other campers are set up. And he starts going into the woods and walking. Well, my dad only had a small little pen light that he was using for light. I'm not sure why he did not feel it necessary to bring a flashlight with him, but apparently this is what he had decided to bring. And he's walking through the woods at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning with a pen light. Well, as soon as he gets into that wooded area, he starts hearing something in the trees above him. And he continues walking, and he realizes that whatever this is in the trees above him, it is following him. And this is not something small. My dad is a country boy. He knows the animals that are in the area. He knows what animals sound like out in nature. And this was not a squirrel. This was not a raccoon. I even asked him if it was possible that this could be a bobcat. And he swears this thing was far larger than any of those. In fact, he says this thing sounded as though it was human size. It was large, and it was not making any attempts to sound quiet. This thing did not want to be stealthy. It was intentionally making a ruckus as it climbed overhead from tree to tree over the top of him. He tried to aim his penlight up and look and see what this potentially was. But of course, penlight, they're not very good. They only see maybe a couple feet in front of you at best. And if anything, it was almost more of a hindrance than it was a use trying to look up into the dark trees with the penlight. So he really didn't get a good look at anything, and but he was hearing this and he was continuing on, hoping to get to those bathrooms fairly quickly. And whatever this was, it just gave him this intense sense of dread. It was not feeling the same way as just an animal being around you or being out in the dark. This was something that was primal, and it was intense, and it felt like he was in grave danger. He made it to the clearing where the bathrooms were, and half expected this thing to chase him out of the woods. It did not, and he made his way all the way to those bathrooms through that small clearing. And he sat in there, terrified that this was going to walk into the bathrooms. These were the type of bathrooms that have no door leading into them. You kind of walk in and then turn around a corner, and it's like a U-bend turning back on itself to get into the main portion of the bathrooms. And then there are stalls within there. And he said he spent probably at least an hour or more in that bathroom, wondering if it was going to come in, expecting that it would be coming in at any moment, and also dreading the idea of having to walk back out there and have it be waiting for him. Now, after that hour or so, he realized he was going to have to go back. He didn't Staying all night in the bathrooms was really not an option. And there was that chance that it could decide to make its way in there. It just was not a safe option. So, begrudgingly, he decided to make the journey back. He came out of the bathrooms and heard nothing, and he walked back to that tree line and began walking into it. And as soon as he stepped within those trees, he heard it above him again. This thing, whatever it was, or whoever it was, sat and waited for him for at least an hour. At 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it knew he would be coming back out and that he would be traveling back that way. And it waited patiently for him to return. Now he continued back that 1/4 of a mile journey through the woods with only a penlight, the entire time hearing this thing make more and more louder and louder noises above him. Never once did he hear a grumble or a growl or moan or any kind of guttural noise. Just the sound of it climbing intensely over his head, of it roughly leaping from tree to tree. Now, this thing traveled the entire time through those trees and easily moved above him from one tree to another. And it followed for 1/4 of a mile in one direction and waited and followed for 1/4 of a mile in another direction. Now he continued walking on and on until finally he could see the tents with his group through the trees, and he exited the tree line. He could hear the whispers of the 2 men in the tent that he was sharing. Possibly they woke up when they realized he was no longer there. And as he approached and heard their whispers, the sound from the trees stopped. He gratefully exited the tree line and crawled back into that tent. And he did not make any more bathroom journeys during the nighttime during that trip. Remember, this was day one, night one of a 4-day trip, and he held it for the rest of the trip whenever it was nighttime. This was also the last camping trip that he went on with them. Now, that's not because he doesn't want to go back. He would like to go back, and he would like to do the camping trip again. It just so happened that this happened to be the last one that he has been able to go on in 20 years. But it has been something that has stuck with him. And I can tell you, as his daughter, I have heard this story countless times. He has developed quite an interest in the dogman phenomena, and dogman sightings. And I can tell you, I think that a large portion of what has spurred that on is this particular experience. And I'm fairly confident to say that I don't think it's just up there at Lake George that my dad would not go wandering off into the woods at nighttime. But it is because of this incident. He has learned his lesson, and I don't think you could convince him to do that. I think he would rather bring a pot in the tent with him than be stuck out there and having to walk through the woods at night, at least after this experience. All right, guys, I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope that you enjoyed sewing along with me, quilting along with me. Don't forget that you can pick up this book and all of the supplies for the quilt along at Fat Quarter Shop. I've got them linked down in the description box below. And I hope that you guys will send me any of your stories that that you would like to hear me read. I would enjoy reading them. All right, guys, so that was the end of week 3 of our Halloween Memories quilt along. I hope you enjoyed our spooky sew along. And remember, you can always send in your stories, and I would be happy to tell them on the channel. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye.